Honestly, for most of my life, I hated my body and I really did not like the way it looked. I didn't want to be in it and I did everything in my power to change it. But it was when I finally worked on my self-concept and nothing else that not only did I not need to change my body anymore, it suddenly did. Hello my loves, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Lorena, I'm a somatic self-concept and identity coach, and I help you to bridge the gap between who you currently are or how you see yourself at the moment and who you desire to be or become. Today's video is about a few different topics, but they're all connected to body image, physical appearance. There's a little bit about my own story of how I changed my relationship to my body and how I ultimately even changed my physical appearance through changing my self-concept. And I'm gonna go into how your self-concept impacts your physical appearance and whether you're satisfied with the way you look or who you are or not. This is definitely going to help you. So I want to start with a bit about my own journey, just so you see where I'm coming from, where I used to be, where I am now, what I did, what worked, what didn't work, what was good, what was not so good. I struggled with my body image for as long as I can remember, honestly. I think especially as women, the media, our society gives us all these messages about how we should be, what we should look like. And so it's pretty normal for anyone, even if you objectively, whatever that means, have the most perfect body, to struggle with some insecurities. I don't think I know a single person who has never been insecure about the way they looked. Whether that's something that they didn't like in their face or something that they wanted to change about their body, their height, their size, whatever it is, we all have insecurities. And I can remember that I was already comparing myself to other children when I was in kindergarten. Genuinely, it was that early on. It's one of the first memories I have to think that I was too chubby or not good enough, and why were all these other kids skinnier? And I was comparing myself to other children all the time, my friends, my family members, cousins. And very early on, I fell into pretty disordered eating patterns. I vividly remember that I was sitting in my grandma's house and there was like a bowl of sweets on the table, and I ate as many as I could because I had the thought, pretty insane thought, of what if I can never eat this again? So I better eat it all now at once, which was really a very early way of self-harm, which obviously as a 4, 5, 6-year-old, I don't even know, I didn't understand. But given that this started so early on, you can imagine that throughout my teenage years, throughout my adolescence, it didn't get better, it got worse. You know, you hit puberty and suddenly your body changes, right? You get even more insecure. I was the type of person as well. I was the type of girl who got breasts pretty early on. I shouldn't have done that. Very young, I was kind of like an early bloomer with everything. And so I felt self-conscious because nobody else was changing yet and I was changing, and I was getting even bigger when I was already feeling like I was too big. It was just one of the pieces that catapulted me into what I can now see was a depression. At the time, I didn't know, I didn't understand, but now I can see that I was depressed as a teenager. And that kind of then coincided with an eating disorder. And it got pretty full-blown. It got bad for a few years. And luckily, I managed to get out of it and to get healthy. But for a few years, I was either eating very little, I was binging, and then over-exercising or even purging. And really that reaction, that disordered eating that I was having to deal with, was an attempt to control, because I felt out of control, because I felt insecure, I didn't feel good enough, I didn't feel beautiful. Obviously, there's so much more that goes into the creation of something like this, or the development of something like this, but I just want to give you a picture of where I was at when I was younger. And the tricky thing with body image issues and eating disorders, and when you stop eating or you stop eating healthily, in our society, especially at the time, right? This was in the early 2000s. So just after the 90s, right? Where everybody was like, the skinnier you are, the better. Me losing weight, I got a lot of compliments. So that didn't make it better, because now I got the validation, which I was craving all along. I was just trying to fill a hole. I didn't love myself. Nobody taught me how to. And I was trying to fill a hole, and I did that through losing weight and getting validation from other people around me who didn't know what I was struggling with internally. I did not believe anything could change. Classic case of being stuck in a specific self-concept. I definitely didn't think I could be athletic or enjoy exercising. I even hated sports in kindergarten. There's a lot of reasons for my own trauma with this, which I'm not going to go into, but I definitely had a self-concept of I could never be a person who loves exercising or who does it on the regular. I fully identified with somebody who didn't like it. And that's what happens when we hold on to a self-concept, right? We hold on to an identity and we don't even consider that things could be different or that we could become a completely different version of ourselves. And even when we consider it, we don't see it as a possibility, or we don't know how to get there. So obviously, when you control your food intake and everything about your eating habits, it's not sustainable. You can see I'm a big advocate for sustainability nowadays. Back then, I was just living very short term. I was a teenager, right? But even then, I realized that it wasn't sustainable, so the self-loathing that I felt internally really turned into self-harm, and I just did not stop eating and consequently gained a lot of weight. I disliked myself more and more. I got more and more depressed, also for other reasons, right? It was very much situational, and because I didn't know how to regulate myself. And then there was a breaking point where I decided no more, and I admitted to myself that I had a problem, and I did the work and I gained a healthy weight, and I started working out, and I even found a sport that I enjoyed, which at the time was pole dancing. I did pole dancing for quite a long time, 7 years, probably, something like this. And it was very empowering for me. You can't pole dance having a lot of clothes on because you're not going to stick to the pole. I kind of had to embrace my body. I was looking at it a lot. But that being said, I was still looking for a lot of validation externally. So that would sometimes look like just posting pictures on Instagram and hoping for the likes. Or I would project it onto romantic relationships and this need to be chosen. So I say that as well. I bring that in because you can see that my self-concept at the time and my need and desire for love would just manifest in different unhealthy ways. When one area was resolved, it would show up in another area. When the area of my body image improved, it would show up in my romantic relationships, or the other way around. It would show up in my career. It would show up in all kinds of ways, just in order to feel some sense of validation and feeling good about myself. So that was the starting point. The whole pole dancing journey was the starting point of me embracing myself as I was. Well, nowadays, everything is completely different, even from then, because I was still very unhappy. And eventually I did it from the other way around. And I worked on my self-concept first, and that changed everything. So let's get into that, not just with my personal story, but also just to explain to you how it works, really. Because your self-concept impacts everything in your life, and that also includes your physical appearance. It doesn't matter what you look like. If you don't feel good about yourself, that's gonna show. Even if you're the most beautiful person in the world. And the other way around, you've probably seen people where you look at them and you're like, they're objectively not that beautiful, but there's something about their energy, there's something about the way they carry themselves and when they enter a room that just exudes confidence and magnetism, and you just feel like that's an attractive person, even if objectively, or if you saw them on a picture, you wouldn't feel that way maybe. And the thing is that you cannot hate yourself into loving yourself. If you don't like the way you currently look, it's okay to want to improve things, by the way. It's okay to want to improve things. But if you cannot accept yourself as you currently are, if you don't like the way you currently are or look, that isn't going to change when your external appearance, your physical appearance changes. As long as you look outside of yourself to validate yourself, you'll stay powerless. And those are exactly the things I used to do, be that with my physical appearance, with managing my food intake, be that with trying to get validation from men through academic achievements or career success. It was all an attempt to get external validation and an attempt to source my self-worth through that validation, which inevitably failed. Now, speaking of self-worth, before we move on, because I've got a lot more to say, I want to invite you to check out my free masterclass called Deserving, which is all about embodying a true sense of self-worth. Because you know that you're worthy. You know it. Even if you can't feel it, you know it. But this masterclass is really going to help you to get into the feeling of it, to see the possibility of fully embodying it. And so I've left a link to the replay below. Check it out. Let me know how you get on with it. Let me know what your takeaways are. Send me a DM on Instagram and let me know. And now let's move on to the rest of the video. So there's a phase in my coaching program which is all about embodied self-love and how much you love yourself and accept yourself and how much you can embrace even the things about yourself that you don't like or that you don't love really impacts the self-concept that you're able to embody. As I said, you can't hate yourself into loving yourself. And so we have a phase in Recreate Yourself which is all about self-love and not the buzzwordy, boring, take a bubble bath self-love, but true embodied, empowered self-love. And that has to do with different pillars of self-love, which I actually have a video on, which is my first ever video, I think. I almost don't want to link it because I'm going to be embarrassed, but here you go. But one of those pillars is physical self-love, which is about your body and your relationship to your body. And it impacts so much in your life. It's not just about your body image and feeling beautiful. It's not just about seeing tangible physical changes, although you often do. I was working with one of my clients a while ago, and she was really struggling to lose weight. And it's not something that is a focus for me to help people with. That's not what we worked on at all. We worked on her self-concept and her beliefs about herself. It turned out the reason she wasn't able to lose weight was because deep down she had a fear of being seen. So unconsciously, she kept the weight on so that she didn't have to be perceived as beautiful, so that she could stay in the background compared to her girlfriends and when she was going out, and she didn't have to. It was kind of an avoidant mechanism, really, but that was so not obvious, right? That was something that was completely unconscious and that we only uncovered when we dove into her psyche. And when we uncovered those belief systems and those fears that she was dealing with, and the moment we were able to tackle that in her self-concept, the weight began to slowly fall off because she was open to taking up space in a way where she would be seen as beautiful and where it wasn't threatening to her anymore to be seen as beautiful. But apart from physical changes like this, changes in your belief about yourself and your self-concept like this, changing your relationship with your body will also build trust with yourself. It helps you trust yourself and your intuition, and it helps you make more empowered and aligned decisions, ultimately. So you're going to become more successful with any desire that you tackle, which doesn't even have anything to do with the way you look. But your relationship to your body is part of your relationship with yourself. And your relationship with yourself determines your self-concept, logically, and your self-concept determines your relationship to anything else in your life and what you're able to achieve and who you're able to become. All that being said, I almost didn't put this term manifesting physical appearance changes into the title of this video because I really want to make clear that that is not something I am promoting. People come to me because they want to change their self-identity, their self-concept. They want to change the way they see themselves. And that is what I did with my story and with my body too. I stepped into a new identity. I did the work to dismantle and integrate all the parts of myself, all the parts of my psyche. I worked through all the fears, all the trauma that I had, so that I was able to step into a self-concept that was athletic, that was active, that enjoyed exercising in so many ways, that took care of her body, that nourished herself in a good way. So of course my body changed through that. I became a version of myself that takes care of her body, that loves her body, that works out almost every day. So of course my body looks better than it ever has. And it looks better than it ever has without me trying. I'm not dieting. I'm not making myself go and work out. It's just who I am. But it didn't come through hating what I was seeing. It didn't even come through hyper-focusing on changing what I was seeing. As I said, it's not wrong to want to improve yourself, to want to improve the way you look. Nothing wrong with it. But if you do it from a place of disliking yourself, you're not going to get very far, because you're never going to be satisfied with where you end up. Your appearance will change when you change your self-concept, but that's not the goal. My goal is that you see how amazing and how beautiful you already are, and that you do not need changing. You can't change what you don't accept anyway. And when you transform your self-concept, you will see changes in areas where you didn't even expect to see them. I didn't try to change my body, and I did, because I changed my self-concept. I've had clients come to me for working on their relationship patterns, and in the process, they've healed chronic illnesses. That's mind-blowing. That wasn't even the intention. That's what your transformation into a new self-concept, into a new identity can do. I've had clients who became really fit and glowing and magnetic, but that's not even what they came to me for. How you feel about yourself really shows up in your energy. It shows up in every aspect of your life. Let me know what your relationship with your body is like, and how or if you'd like to change it. And I would also really appreciate it if you left me some video suggestions, because I want to make sure that I create content that you want to watch, that you want to learn about, that you enjoy. So any requests about topics regarding transforming your self-concept, subconscious reprogramming, emotional integration, leave it in the comments, and I'll see you in next week's video.